There's a habit destroying your willpower every single day. A habit so normalized, so defended, so buried under layers of modern justification that most men never question it. Yet ancient philosophers knew its true cost. They understood what modern science is now proving. This one behavior is quietly stealing your mental clarity, your emotional strength, and your capacity for greatness. Today, we're going to explore what the Stoics knew about desire, discipline, and the hidden psychology of self-mastery. Because the habit I'm talking about isn't just about physical release, it's about something far more dangerous. It's about training your mind to seek instant gratification over long-term strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work, as a human being." He understood that every choice you make either builds your character or erodes it. There's no neutral ground. The Stoics didn't obsess over pleasure or pain. They obsessed over something more fundamental: the quality of your thoughts and the strength of your will. They knew that a man's greatest battles aren't fought in the outside world. They're fought in the privacy of his own mind. Epictetus, who spent years as a slave, understood constraint better than most. He taught that true freedom comes not from doing whatever you want, but from wanting only what serves your highest good. "No one is free who is not master of himself," he said. These weren't just pretty words. They were battle-tested principles from men who understood suffering, discipline, and strength. But here's what's fascinating. Modern neuroscience is validating what these ancient philosophers intuited thousands of years ago. Your brain has a finite amount of willpower each day. Neuroscientists call this ego depletion, the idea that every decision requiring self-control draws from the same mental reservoir. When you drain this reservoir on low-value activities, you have less strength for what actually matters. Think about it this way. Every time you give in to instant gratification, you're literally rewiring your brain to seek more instant gratification. You're training your neural pathways to choose the immediate dopamine hit over the delayed reward. You're teaching yourself to be weak. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, planning, and self-control, gets weaker with every surrender to impulse. Meanwhile, the limbic system, your primitive reward center, gets stronger and more demanding. This isn't moral judgment, this is biology. This is your brain on easy dopamine. Here's what most men don't understand about modern life. You're swimming in a sea of artificial stimulation. Your ancestors had to hunt for their dopamine. They had to build, create, overcome real challenges. Their reward systems evolved for scarcity, not abundance. Today, you can access infinite streams of stimulation with a few taps on your phone. Your brain's reward system wasn't designed for this. It's like giving rocket fuel to a horse-drawn carriage. The machinery breaks down. When you constantly flood your system with easy dopamine, you develop tolerance. Normal pleasures, a good conversation, a sunset, the satisfaction of hard work, start to feel flat. You need stronger hits, more intensity, more frequency. This is why men who indulge in excessive instant gratification often struggle with motivation in other areas. Their reward threshold has been artificially elevated. Real life can't compete with the hyperstimulation they've trained their brains to expect. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." The Stoics understood that to build something great, you must be willing to let something else die. They didn't view desires as inherently evil. They viewed them as tests. Each craving that arises is an opportunity to practice self-mastery or to surrender control. The choice you make in that moment shapes who you become. The Stoics talked about preferred indifference, things that are naturally appealing but ultimately don't determine your character or happiness. Physical pleasure falls into this category. It's not inherently good or bad, but your relationship to it reveals everything about your strength. A weak man is controlled by his desires. A strong man controls them, not through suppression or shame, but through conscious choice and understanding of consequences. Here's what most men miss. The real cost isn't physical, it's psychological. Every time you choose instant gratification over discipline, you're making a statement about who you are. You're saying, I cannot delay satisfaction. I cannot endure temporary discomfort. I am not strong enough to choose the harder path. These micro decisions compound. They shape your identity at the deepest level. They determine whether you see yourself as someone who controls their impulses or someone who is controlled by them. Think about the most successful men you know. Think about the men you truly respect. What do they all have in common? They've learned to delay gratification. They've learned to endure temporary discomfort for long-term gain. They've trained themselves to want what serves their larger purpose. This isn't about perfection. It's about trajectory. Are your daily choices moving you toward strength or toward weakness? Toward clarity or confusion? Toward mastery or slavery? From an evolutionary standpoint, sexual energy has always been connected to achievement and creation. Throughout history, men who could channel this energy toward building, conquering, and creating were the ones who shaped civilizations. The great artists, inventors, leaders, and visionaries often had something in common. They understood how to transmute sexual energy into creative and productive force. They weren't suppressing their nature. They were directing it towards something greater than immediate pleasure. Napoleon Hill wrote about this concept in Think and Grow Rich, calling it sexual transmutation. Ancient Eastern philosophies understood it as well. The idea isn't to become sexless. It's to become so focused on your purpose that you're not constantly distracted by base impulses. Modern society tells you that any form of sexual restraint is repression. This is convenient for a culture built on consumption and instant gratification, but it ignores thousands of years of wisdom about human potential. When you step back from constant stimulation, something remarkable happens. Your mind clears, your focus sharpens. You start to notice subtleties you missed before. You become more present in conversations, more creative in your work, more decisive in your choices. This isn't placebo effect. This is your brain returning to its natural state, a state where dopamine is earned through achievement, not given away freely through artificial stimulation. You start to appreciate simple pleasures again. A good meal tastes better. Exercise feels more satisfying. Accomplishments carry more weight. This is what the Stoics meant when they talked about living according to nature. Not fighting your humanity, but expressing it in its highest form. Here's something most men don't consider. Your energy affects everyone around you. When you're constantly draining yourself through instant gratification, you show up differently in the world. You're less present with your partner, less focused at work, less inspiring to other men. Women can sense this energy even if they can't articulate it. There's a difference between a man who controls his desires and one who is controlled by them. It shows up in confidence, presence, and the way he carries himself. Other men sense it too. There's a reason why throughout history, disciplined men have been natural leaders. Discipline creates trust. When people see that you can control yourself, they believe you can handle greater responsibilities. This isn't about sexual energy specifically. It's about the broader principle of self-mastery. But sexual discipline is often the foundation because it's one of the most powerful and persistent drives we face. The Stoics believed in practical wisdom, not theoretical perfection. They understood that change happens gradually, through consistent small choices. Start by observing your patterns without judgment. When do these urges arise? What triggers them? Are you seeking stimulation when you're bored, stressed, or avoiding important tasks? Notice the thoughts that precede the action. The Stoics called this catching the first thought. Once you can observe the mental pattern, you can begin to change it. Replace the habit with something that serves your larger goals. When you feel the urge for instant gratification, redirect that energy toward your work, your health, or your relationships. Use the energy rather than dissipate it. This isn't about becoming a monk. It's about becoming intentional. It's about choosing when and how you engage with pleasure rather than being at its mercy. The deepest truth the Stoics understood is this: you are not your desires. You are the consciousness that observes them. You are the decision maker who chooses how to respond to them. When you identify too strongly with your impulses, you become their prisoner. When you realize you are separate from them, that you can observe them, evaluate them, and choose your response, you become free. This freedom is what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel, a place within yourself that cannot be touched by external circumstances or internal cravings, a place of calm strength where you make decisions based on wisdom rather than impulse. Most men never discover this place because they're too busy serving their immediate desires to develop the discipline required to find it. But once you do, everything changes. You become unshakable, not because nothing affects you, but because you've learned to choose your responses rather than react automatically. Here's what happens when you consistently choose discipline over impulse. Your confidence builds not through empty affirmations, but through evidence. Evidence that you can trust yourself. Evidence that you can delay gratification. Evidence that you are stronger than your momentary desires. This confidence is different from arrogance or bravado. It's quiet, steady, and unshakable because it's based on reality rather than pretense. Other people feel this energy and are naturally drawn to it. Your decision-making improves across all areas of life. The same strength you develop by controlling one impulse transfers to financial discipline, health choices, and relationship decisions. Self-mastery is a transferable skill. Your creativity expands. When you're not constantly dissipating energy through instant gratification, that energy becomes available for creation, problem-solving, and innovation. You have more mental resources to direct toward what matters. The challenge we face today is unprecedented in human history. Never before have men had access to infinite, immediate, high-intensity stimulation. Your great-grandfather couldn't carry a device in his pocket that provided instant access to any desire he might have. This isn't just about one habit. It's about the entire structure of modern life. We're surrounded by systems designed to capture and monetize our attention, to keep us consuming, to prevent us from developing the deep focus required for meaningful achievement. Recognizing this isn't paranoia, it's awareness. Once you understand the game being played, you can choose not to play it. You can choose to develop your attention, discipline, and presence in a world designed to scatter and weaken these qualities. The Stoics had an advantage we've lost. They understood that external conditions don't determine internal states. They practiced this understanding daily through exercises in mental discipline. They would deliberately expose themselves to cold hunger and discomfort, not as punishment, but as training. They were strengthening their ability to choose their response to any circumstance. You can apply this same principle to modern challenges. Every urge you don't immediately satisfy becomes training. Every moment of boredom you don't immediately fill with stimulation becomes practice in presence. Every desire you observe without acting upon becomes an opportunity to strengthen your inner citadel. This isn't deprivation, it's preparation. You're preparing yourself for the moments when strength will be required, for the challenges that will demand your full presence and power. Philosophy without practice is just intellectual entertainment. The Stoics were men of action who tested their principles against reality. They weren't interested in theory. They were interested in wisdom that worked under pressure. This means your commitment to discipline must be tested in the real world. It's easy to be disciplined when you feel motivated. True strength is revealed when you're tired, stressed, or facing difficult circumstances. The habit we've been discussing is just one example of a broader principle. Every choice is a vote for the kind of man you want to become. Every small decision contributes to your character, your reputation with yourself, and your capacity for greatness. The Stoics took the long view of life. They understood that temporary sacrifices lead to permanent gains, while temporary pleasures often lead to permanent regrets. When you choose immediate gratification, you're trading your future strength for present weakness. When you choose discipline, you're trading present discomfort for future power. This isn't about becoming perfect overnight. It's about becoming slightly stronger each day. It's about building a trajectory toward mastery rather than drift toward mediocrity. 10 years from now, you'll be living with the consequences of the choices you make today. The question is, what kind of consequences do you want to live with? The ultimate freedom isn't the ability to do whatever you want. It's the ability to want only what serves your highest good. This is what the Stoics meant when they talked about living according to virtue. When your desires align with your values, when your impulses serve your larger purpose, when your daily choices build rather than erode your character. This is when you experience true freedom, not the chaotic freedom of impulse, but the structured freedom of self-mastery. Most men spend their lives as prisoners of their own desires. thinking they're free because nobody is directly controlling them. But true freedom comes from controlling yourself so completely that external control becomes unnecessary. The habit that makes men weak isn't just about physical behavior. It's about mental discipline. It's about whether you train your mind to seek easy dopamine or earn it through achievement. It's about whether you develop the strength to delay gratification or remain a slave to immediate impulse. The Stoics understood that character is destiny. The small choices you make when nobody is watching determine the man you become when everybody is. Your relationship with desire, discipline, and self-control shapes everything else in your life. You have a choice to make right now. You can continue living as you have, allowing impulses to dictate your actions, or you can begin the patient work of building unshakable self-mastery. The path isn't easy, but it's simple. Choose discipline over impulse. Choose long-term strength over short-term pleasure. Choose to become the kind of man who controls his desires rather than being controlled by them. This is how you build the inner citadel Marcus Aurelius wrote about. This is how you develop the unshakable presence that draws people to you and opens doors others can't even see. The choice is yours. The power is in your hands. The question is, what will you do with it? If this perspective has shifted something in your thinking, if you're ready to take back control of your mental energy and build genuine strength, comment below. I control my focus. Let's build a community of men committed to real self-mastery in a world designed to keep us weak. Remember, every expert was once a beginner, every master was once a disaster, but they all had one thing in common. They made the decision to change and they followed through with consistent action. Your journey toward strength begins with your next choice. Make it count.